Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. We have like such a packed house tonight and we are all excited. So I know that we really want to keep talking. It feels like some sort of class reunion, but a good one, right? I'm excited to be here tonight with you, like in this community, in the launch of this Grace and Gravity, the volume 10. So I'm very excited about that. My name is Patricia Corral. I'm the director of events of Politics and Prose. So once again, welcome to Politics and Prose. So I just wanted to go very quickly through some housekeeping. Please silence your cell phones. Let me make sure that I did mine too, so we don't disrupt the event. Also, we have copies available at the registers, so you can buy for you, your friends, your family, everyone, your neighbors. So we have plenty of copies available at the register. At the end of the event, we ask you to please, if you can, if you're able, to close your chairs and lean it against something sturdy. I see that the room pretty much we don't have anything sturdy left, but let's try. That will really help our staff. Other than that, again, let's welcome everyone and Melissa Scholes Young to talk a little bit about what's going to be happening tonight.
I'm supposed to talk about what's happening, what's going to happen. People think I'm in charge. I am Melissa Scholes Young, and I am so excited to be here. I mean bursting. Because we throw parties for books. Yeah? Why not? Why not? Can you all hear me okay? Do I need to be louder? Okay, thank you, Caroline. I need that feedback and that emotional support right now. How cool was that party in the parking lot? Yeah? I've been dreaming about a party in the parking lot for about a year now, and that is thanks to Dan. There's Dan. Everybody give it up for Dan back there. Because Dan drove the humanities truck here from American University, and then we did a pop-up party, and my entire class in literary editing and publishing, if you are in literary editing and publishing, raise your hand. This was their final exam. I'm not making that part up. I planned the whole book around when their final exam is, and I just want you all to know you just got an A+. On the exam. That's it. That's the only part of the course I've graded so far. Well done. Fun to have a party in the parking lot. Thank goodness it didn't rain. We had a plan for that too. But I am so excited to be here, and I have a million people to thank. And then most importantly, we're here to hear stories and words and readings and be a community together. This matters. I've been dreaming about this moment for about a year, for at least a year. Maybe for 3 years, since we didn't do this in 2020 when our book came out. And I've seen so many people here tonight that are actually from that class also. If you're here from Literary Editing and Publishing 2020 version, raise your hand also. Sorry. Thank you, Cassie. Sorry about that pandemic. But we still... we had this whole launch party planned, and then we went home for spring break. And here we are now, 3 years later, excited to be back together, but we still launched an amazing book. That was Furious Gravity. Woo! I know. So welcome to the Grace and Gravity book launch. Get ready to shout and clap, because I have a lot of people that we're going to shout and clap for. This is our 10th print edition in almost 20 years. Thank you, Beth Ann. Thank you. Listen, I know every person's name in this audience. So 20 years of celebrating DC area women writers, and we are thrilled to be part of this gathering, of this community, and like I said, to throw a book for parties, or throw a party for books. I'm so excited. It's So when I moved to the DC region more than a decade ago, I fell hard and fast for this literary community. I thirsted at readings, sometimes rushing between 2 a night. I cruised independent bookstores and public libraries daily. I courted book launches and especially the after parties. That's where the real fun happens. I wrote reviews and I interviewed local authors. I bought all of the books. I was a lot. But rumors started about how close me and the literary community were growing. We spent more time together. I joined a book club. I published 2 novels. I taught writing classes. My crush grew into a relationship, and we professed our mutual love. And then one magical night, Richard Peabody, the founder of the Grace and Gravity Project. Where's Richard? No, Beth. There he is. He shared that he thought the anthology series of DC area women should be edited by, well, a woman. So I said yes. I fall for local art too. And on a twinkly summer night, I visited the Visibility Art Lab, a studio that supports artists with autism and intellectual and developmental disabilities. Maven Kahn's evocative sculpture, which is here. You can see why I fell in love with this. Maven Kahn's evocative sculpture reminded me of the complexity of self-love too. In an interview last week that Alex Greenhill conducted with Maven, they talked about the meaning of art. And Maven said, "Art is a way to express joy through the power of resistance. My sculpture, Aurora the Guardian, embodies strength and trans pride. It's a little cracked, a little crooked, but it's about being joyful for who you are. And look how beautiful you've become." I was thrilled when Maven agreed to share their art with us. And I'm grateful to Elaine. Where's Elaine? There's Elaine Parks, Program Director of Visibility Arts, for making the connection. And I knew when I saw this sculpture, I had a vision for what the next anthology would be about. And I knew it was going to be about love, but I didn't know how writers would respond to that. But I'm so grateful that Maven has brought her work here tonight to celebrate with us. Maven, thank you. Love is a risk. So is a submission call. DC area women writers bared their hearts to us. They longed for outer space, geography, travel, and relief from natural disasters. My heart softened as I read about love at first sight, self-love, unrequited love, family bonds, sibling strength, and lust. We heard from writers holding space for hurt and healing, who learned sometimes that love means letting go. You'll encounter their pain in this incredible collection of stories, and you'll swoon at their passions. Our editorial team, starring Lindsay and Annie. Where are Lindsay and Annie? Where's Lynn? There's Annie. Where's Lindsay? Hey, Lindsay. Are bringing you this book with help from a grant awarded by American University's Humanity Truck. It's become like a food truck for feminist publishing and has allowed us to create videos, host book events, distribute free copies of local literary journals, pay speakers, and for the first time ever, fund editor prizes. Thanks also to my editing and publishing class at American University for their support. We spent a semester together learning about the industry, and now we've put it all together in practice for this launch. Programs, buttons, free buttons in the back, book trailers, social media, press releases, publicity, author spotlights, and much more. Praise to Caroline Hockenberry, where are you, Caroline, for your patience. Caroline edited the videos. You'll also be able to see all this work on our website. So if you weren't able to see the videos tonight that we released, please go to our website and check those out. And of course, thanks to our Politics and Prose family, Gareth, Patricia, Morgan, Susan, Alan, Alyssa, and all the booksellers and book lovers that make events like this possible. If this is your first time ever being in Politics and Prose, welcome. Welcome to your new home. You can live here. Susan Call wrote a whole book about it. I hope that you see yourself in these pages. I want you to be loved and to be cherished. And when our hearts break, maybe we can hold hands. It's my honor to edit Grace and Gravity, and with each volume, my infatuation with this literary community grows. Thank you for showing up tonight for the love of words. You can clap, it's okay. We're also delighted tonight to be celebrating Folio, our literary journal, edited by MFA students. And please help me welcome Lindsay Forbes-Brown and Michaela Burgess for a few words about this edition. And of course, they brought you all presents. If you haven't picked up free copies of Folio, there are plenty still available.
Hi, I'm Lindsay, and I am editor-in-chief of this year's issue of Folio.
I'm Mika, and I'm the managing editor of Folio.
And we're so excited to launch our first ever all-horror issue, volume number 38. I'm just going to say a little bit about it. In the wake of COVID, political upheaval, and natural disaster, we have been encouraged by the breadth of imagination, heartened by the spirit of creatives coming together to create dark, magical things with life and breath of their own.
In this issue, contributors share terrorizing stories such as Christine Boyer's piece, which reveals a horrifyingly real portrayal of motherhood as unglamorous, feral, and dissociative. That's great.
We have creative nonfiction essays that give us the creepy crawlies and straddle the line between the surreal and real.
We have experimental poems which push against form, such as using erasure to scrutinize China's future.
And we have art that inspires fear and disgust. Brittany Fanning painted both this year and last year's issue. Here, her piece depicts a twilight feast. With a smorgasbord of indulgence, we imagine this as Prince Prospero's table upon the Red Death's arrival.
Ooh, that was good. We also have an amazing interview with Melissa Broder, the author of poetry collection Superdoom and novel Milkfed inside.
And finally, we'd like to thank everyone who was a part of this, who worked tirelessly on this project with us, especially Gareth, who is our formatter and designer over there, and David Keplinger, who is our faculty advisor.
So there are free copies by the entrance of Politics and Prose, and you can also order our latest issue online. So please grab some if you haven't already and take them home with you.
Thank you, everyone.
You. You need to introduce someone?
Oh, wait, Lindsay. And now I'd also like to welcome editor Charlotte Van Schack is here to introduce us to Amlet, another magazine that we're distributing free tonight. Where's Charlotte? Hi, Charlotte.
Hello, I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity for us to distribute copies of Amlet here. Amlet is the undergraduate literary magazine from American University, and this academic semester I feel like has been a real labor of love from students who are working as contributors, as managers, editors for the magazine. We have, I'd say, a big thank you to Melissa for becoming our faculty advisor for the magazine, which we didn't have in the past, and she has really given us good guidance in how to make sure that the work produced best reflects the author's intentions and their efforts, their labors. All I really have to say about our magazine is that I hope you enjoy the looking through it. If you were able to grab a copy, it's really been, as I said, labor of love, putting this thing back together after poor management in the past, and I hope that it's true, and I hope that it can only continue to grow and supporting blooming writers, artists, photographers, in finding their place and connecting with other people who share the same passions with them.
Okay, so you can get your copies of Amlet in the back. You can get your copies of Folio. You can get a copy of Grace and Love here for sale at the register. We are only selling Grace and Love at this independent bookstore. You may not buy this on Amazon. Got it? We are here tonight to support this independent bookstore and all independent bookstores. And so this is where we're selling it because I get to make that decision. And now let me turn it over to the writers who have made this book possible. If you are a contributor to Grace and Love, will you stand up? That's you, Anne. Yay! Okay. Stay standing. Don't move. Stay standing. Stay standing. If you are a contributor to a previous volume of the Grace and Gravity series over the last 20 years, please stand up. That's the rest of you. There's Shelby. Yay! Yay! Thank you all. That's a lot of power and grace and creativity in the room. And I would like to say that everyone else should stand for the next 20 years of Grace and Gravity, but we'll hold off on that for now. I'm grateful to be a part of it, and our first reader tonight is, of course, the glorious Sandra Beasley.
Good evening. How are we doing in terms of sound? Still good? Awesome. Wonderful. I want to extend my thanks to everyone, the community, the staff, to Melissa, to Politics and Prose. I want to be mindful of time, so I won't articulate individually, but honestly, my heart is filled with gratitude. I do want to single out someone who's not been thanked previously tonight, which would be my husband. Last fall, I found myself, for various reasons, writing about him quite a bit, which is exactly what your partner does not want to hear you say as a writer. And he's never read this, so, and he's over there. All right. Love you. All right. This is in fact called Valentine with Keo. Keo, if you're not familiar, is a brand of Cypriot beer. But this doesn't open in Cyprus. It opens at Virginia Center for Creative Arts, which many of us have a connection to, and where I found a husband. You walked into the room, a stranger coming off several hours on the road, and asked if you'd missed dinner. You had. You inquired about a vending machine. I offered you scotch. We sat on a couch and talked for 2 hours, discovering we lived within blocks of each other back in Washington, D.C. You tolerated my unfettered obsession with monuments and memorials. You stood up to adjust your position on the couch and, in a glorious and painfully obvious move, sat back down in a way to place me within arm's reach. When we walked to your assigned room, I said, "It's a good thing I didn't kiss you." Not sure you thought that was a good thing. You hadn't started a relationship at an artist residency, whereas I had made that mistake before. I'd eventually kiss you anyway. You once bicycled to my studio apartment straight from your shift's end at the Phillips Collection, which is to say you biked at 11 p.m. up Wisconsin Avenue Northwest to Cathedral Heights, which is to say you biked 2 miles uphill. I offered you a scotch. Took several more years for you to admit that you didn't particularly like scotch. You proposed in bed and without a ring after a thoughtful pause. Not as if you'd rehearsed a speech, but also not as if it were completely spontaneous. You asked as if you were confirming your own decision in real time, just in case you needed to change your mind on the fly. I respected that. I took you to a creative writing conference in Minneapolis and hurriedly handed off 2 contributor copies to stash in your backpack. The hurry had been on account of the editor who'd handed me the copies, someone I'd once slept with and wasn't particularly anxious to talk to in that moment or ever again. And the essay, I'd realized 20 minutes later and with horror, was about another artist I'd met at the exact same art colony where we met. Of course, you looked up my name in the table of contents, and you read the piece and had no way of knowing this piece wasn't about you, other than in the piece the man wore a knitted red and white striped scarf that you had never worn. You asked later with the gentlest of questions, so that story, is it kind of metaphorical? I realized you could be my best reader when you needed to be, and my non-reader when you needed to be. I realized you were someone to whom I could say, I love you, go away. And that you were someone who could say to me, I love you, go away. I realized that's how two artists live under one roof. This love began with a bottle of Kio on a windowsill in Nicosia. I know, we'd already been married for 5 years by then. Bear with me. I've always worried about my ability to travel with someone. That's not the same as my ability to travel to someone, which is formidable. I'll drive to Mississippi. I'll fly to Zurich. But logistics of a shared trip frightens me, and not just because the airport security in Frankfurt grimaced at the smell of your socked feet that one time. If we take the trip together, you're taking responsibility for me, and I'm still learning to take responsibility for myself, which makes asking you to do the same quite unfair. When we got to Cyprus and checked into the B&B, we bought a couple of the local beers, Kio. We rested them on the windowsill as we unpacked, and as I eased myself into being far outside my comfort zone when it came to my food allergies. For good meals, that meant I'd eat fish and vegetables roasted in olive oil and potatoes or beans. For not great meals, that meant politely abstaining as the halloumi or feta cucumber salad was circulated over and over. The time came when I let my guard down and ended the night shot, gratis from the bartender. After days of Kio, Ouzo, Commandaria, I was unprepared for the milk content of a skim of Bailey's Irish cream. My lips swelled. I took a Benadryl. My breathing shortened. I took another Benadryl. I nervously zipped and unzipped the pocket that holds my epinephrine pen. That's when we learned that while the U.S. Embassy does have a nurse assigned, she lives 90 minutes from the old city. That's when I begged the staff to let us stay while they did post-shift cleanup, while I waited to see if I'd be okay, if the allergy medications would work. You did not guilt-trip me when I had to set my alarm for the next morning so that I could go and meet with 2 classes of 6th graders to talk about persona poetry, my eyelids swollen by edema. You did not guilt-trip me when, dosed on Benadryl, I could not stay awake in hours leading up to our impossibly early morning flight home to the United States. You just stayed up all night and packed our bags. Maybe when I say, I love you, what I mean is, I trust you. Maybe for me, that's the harder thing. Thank you. I want to welcome to the mic Hazel Cherry.
Good evening, everyone. I can't hear you. Thank you. I come to you by way of the Black Church, so I am going to time myself for 4 minutes to make sure I stick to my time, but I also love a little call and response, okay? So this story is sort of been a breath of fresh air for me. I'm a new mom. I have a 9-month-old. And I wrote this story, just as an escape. If anybody has had children, those first few months can be like really, really crazy. So I'm grateful for the space to write. It is about heartbreak, but it's fun. So it's called Love Bombarded and Bamboozled. Dear reader, you want to know the details, don't you? How did a 40-year-old CEO of $1 million company get swooned out of her riches for penis? I mean, we could end there if you've ever had mind-blowing penis. And let's face it, mind-blowing penis is rare. Fortunately for you, I will tell it all. For a fee, of course. I must recoup some of my losses. I've asked myself, how did I end up here? I know you're thinking, where is here? My truth, I'm a battered woman. As powerful and as majestic as I am, I spent the last 5 years of my life tethered to the antithesis of love. Now, do you think after a decade of therapy I know better? Nope. I put up with bullshit, allowing a man 10 years my junior to mansplain to me his lies. I see you judging me. Go ahead. Shit, I'm judging myself too. A word to those who dare to love. Love is not enough. Sure, it's essential to a relationship, but it's not the virtue that holds the relationship together. Shared values and commitment are the glue. Admittedly, being in love is addicting and mesmerizing, enchanting. If you aren't careful, it'll have your ass bamboozled, broke, and in tremendous debt. Trust me, I know. I'm a New Yorker, a Bronx babe, born and bred. I love the hustle and the foggy, stale air, the loud cars, crowded streets, and the people of every ethnicity. The city smells of desperation and purpose. I grew up with 2 lovebirds for parents, so I'd always seen myself married with a family after I got a career started. When it comes to love, I think some people just get lucky. They're at the right place at the right time, and the stars align and all that jazz. Take my parents, for instance. My father, Ernesto Cutrillo, and my mother, Arlinda Duvet, met at the subway station in the spring of 1971. My dad was on duty working construction, and my mother, in a hurry to work, slid on the foyer, and he caught her. The rest was sort of history. Ma would say, I've been falling, and he's been catching ever since. See? Right place, right time. Thank you for the call and response. I love it. Daddy migrated from La Romana, Dominican Republic at 18, and Ma left New Orleans to find better work. For them, New York was the ticket to a better life. My parents instilled in my sister Aria and I the values of hustle and hard work. I had my first business at age 12. It was a seasonal gig, but I loved it. I do all the neighborhood girls' makeup for prom. My mom always had magazines around the house, Latina Magazine, Essence, Jet, and more. She was stylish, and I took after her. This is where my love of beauty found its roots. New York was my home, but Atlanta's West End became my residence after graduating from Spelman with the MBA. I met Dante at a pivotal point in my life. I was finally managing the grief of my parents' tragic death. I was finally coming into my own as a woman, not just as a businesswoman. So the rest you'll have to get when you buy the book. Thank you. And now I have to welcome my colleague and Politics and Prose staff, Patricia Corral.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to read a fragment from my nonfiction piece, The Storm's Heat. This hurricane is bigger than the island. It should hit Jabucoa around 6 a.m., and there are rumors people will lose their cell phone signals. My mom plans to change her voicemail message every day with an update on how they're doing. She heard in the news that they won't lose access to voicemail. I am not on the island, but I don't think that's possible. I keep calling her and waking her up throughout the night to check on them. I ask if they're scared, if they can hear the winds, if it's raining. The truth is, I have nothing to say. It's the first time that the island awaits a Category 5 hurricane and I'm in Houston. I call for the 3rd time at 3 a.m. The power is out, she tells me. But it's raining, so we're sleeping well. I stay quiet. She keeps reassuring me that they'll be okay, but another truth is that she doesn't know. Please take care and don't go out. Stay away from the windows. I'll keep calling until there's no signal. I tell her instead of saying, please don't die, or I'm afraid this could be our last conversation, or I'm sorry for moving away from the island. We hang up and I start scrolling for news on my phone. The hurricane gets closer. Noticentro promises to be on air with news coverage for the next 24 hours. I feel relieved. I lie on my couch with my laptop and I check the hurricane on the radar. I feel like a small god watching over them. I wake gasping for air. I'm still on the couch, and it's 5 a.m. I see on my screen that the Noticenter live stream has gone black. I call my mom again. Hi, this is the Ayala family. It's the first day of the hurricane. We're okay and we're safe. God bless you. I dial over and over again until my hope shrinks. A short video on Facebook. A man in Tuabaja is on the porch of the second floor of his concrete house. This is like nothing we've ever seen before. This is the highest we can go in the house, he says. He points with a flashlight to the street. Currents of muddy waters are invading his house. The video shakes. The wind nearly rips off his clothes. His daughter starts screaming before dawn. I text my friend Anna in Boston. Have you talked to your mom? I have no news from my family. She answers. Last time I talked to her, she was locked inside of the bathroom with her dogs. She thought the wind will rip off the windows. I can't talk now. I just can't. It's noon in Houston. A picture with an SUV and a car flipped over, the windshields smashed. A high-rise lost wall-to-wall windows and balconies, wooden houses ripped to pieces. It's 3 p.m. in Houston. Noticentro is still down. Laura Monzon, the meteorologist, live streams on Facebook using her cell phone. A faint trail of mascara traces her jawline. Her eyes are wide open as if she witnessed an homicide. She talks to us, the Puerto Ricans in the diaspora. We need to be patient, stay outside of the island. There is no communication with any major. The state of the cities and towns is unknown. I keep dialing my mom's number, and my dad's and my brothers and my aunts and my grandmas and my uncles and my grandpas and my cousins. What if this time they answer? Thank you. And now I want to welcome Janailah Handley Creighton.
Hi, my name is Janailah Henley Creighton. I am a current freshman at Howard University. you know. I just really want to thank, really quickly, I want to thank my Reverend and my friend Mary for being here. I love you guys. And I also want to thank my professor who suggested that I even submit my paper for publishing, which is Professor Mokler. She is here. Thank you. So this started out as an assignment, and it's called A Letter to a Future Generation. Dear siblings, I have thought about your well-being and your personal safety all of your lives because of the neglectful environments you have been raised in. Monty, Koya, Jay, Lala, Titi, JJ, Jalen, and Zay, I want the absolute best for you, and that includes your well-being as young black children growing up in America. It will be my everlasting mission to leave a world for you that you can feel safe in without constantly looking over your shoulder. I have actually thought in great detail about these fundamentals all of your life. You are black children who will become black young adults. I would like to think that I have properly prepared you for the gruesome reality of this world that hates your beautiful skin. However, I do not know if I have done a great job in educating you all at all. In this great country of ours, we have been discriminated against purely for who we are and for whom we were born to. I have always looked at you all as if you were my own children, because at one time I had to raise Monty and Lala at the tender ages of 8 to 10 because I lived in the same household with those two for the first 10 years of my life. With the rest of you, your well-being was always of great concern to me, although we did not live in the same place at the same time. We have not had parents that looked out for our safety, nor taught us what it means to be black in this country. Even though I am aware that that is not my fault, I apologize for that. You all deserve so much better than they ever gave you, which has not amounted to much. I know that you did not go through school unaware of our struggles, past or present. You may have briefly heard me refer to Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and Ahmaud Arbery, but they are not the only examples of pain and suffering that our people have faced. Whether you actually learned anything of value and truth in school, however, is lost on me. This grand system of ours could have had you all thinking that we could not provide for ourselves before slavery, that slavery itself was a choice, that Jim Crow laws and segregation made us deliriously happy, and that we have dealt with, and what we have dealt with as a community is a social construct. Do not let them brainwash you into thinking this is the truth. If you learn nothing else from me, it is my hope and my prayer that you develop my passion for freedom. Understand that freedom is not going to be given to you. You must take it for yourselves. Although I am only 18 years of age, I'm 19 now, by the way, I have always thought about your well-being because you are my siblings, because you are young black children growing up in America. In Dr. Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail, he makes the statement, "We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed." In saying this, Dr. King was saying that freedom is never given to you. Therefore, you must take it for yourselves. Our ancestors, including Dr. King, had to endure a lifetime of bondage and suffering for many centuries, and it took them dying in that bondage and suffering for us to be able to have our freedom. Before slavery, our ancestors were kings and queens, warriors, innovators, hunters and gatherers, and also healers. In the motherland of Africa, they sound like unsuperheroes, don't they? Then African slave traders started trading some of our own to Europeans in the Americas, thus began the suffering of our people. During slavery, we had individuals such as Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, and Sojourner Truth, who set the precedent for the civil rights movement, long before the movement was thought of. Let us not forget the power of the civil rights and Black Panther movement. These movements ushered our people into a new way of fighting for our freedom openly and loudly. One movement taught us the value of not reacting to our oppressors when they are spewing out hatred, which was helpful because it allowed the world to see who the truly violent ones were. Another movement showcased us taking action by meeting our oppressors with the same energy that was dealt unto us. Our ancestors' strength and determination flows through your ever-beating veins, which is something that I hope and pray you always remember when times get even tougher than they already have been. In order to freedom fight, the one thing you all will need is courage. Have the courage to stand up to our oppressors, to carry on the lineage of freedom fighting, and to be the next great generation of leaders I know you can be. You all have the courage in you, and I know this to be true because look at how well you have turned out. Some of you play sports, and all of you are excelling in school. In spite of the parents that we were given, you all have managed to step into your greatness as young Black children who are making their way in this God-forsaken world. I'm immensely proud of you, and I know that you will do everything in your power to fight for freedom and justice going forward. For as long as God has put breath in my body, I will always fight for you, even if there are times when you feel like you cannot fight for yourself. And make it my life's mission that you continue to grow and prosper in a world that loves your beautifully melanated skin. Sincerely, your loving sister, Janailah. Thank you. Next, I want to bring up Cynthia Landsberg.
Hi, everyone. I am going to read today from my piece called 7 Weeks. Week 1. Pregnancy was the first time my birth mother's life and mine overlapped since she left me at 7 weeks old. Until then, she floated about in my white, adopted world as a nebulous idea, someone I knew scientifically existed, but who had no tangible form. But when I became pregnant, Amma returned. Amma and I spent those first days of my pregnancy in disbelieving awe of you. But then, the excitement curdled into crushing sickness, and I cursed her return, begging her to leave and to take you with her. I made it this far without you. I do not need you, I shouted to you both. But neither of you left. Instead, Amma inhaled my anger, metabolizing it to protect you. It was an act of penance and her only apology. As the months ticked on, she became the voice inside my head, urging me to eat and to rest. She accompanied me to every doctor's visit, the coronavirus precautions that barred your father, inapplicable to ghosts. And now, Amma and I watch you, the inconceivable newness of you. We're all together, at least for the next 7 weeks. Week 2. We're in the doctor's office again. He's concerned about your failure to thrive. A coded way of saying my milk is not enough, my body is not enough, that I'm not enough. When I could not get pregnant for years, I assumed my body had barricaded my eggs as a form of protection. How can I be a birth mother when my birth mother left? How can I parent someone so whole when I am so broken? There must have been some sort of biological defect in her, in me, that would make us unfit to care for our own. And now I know there is. I left the doctor and bought a can of formula, and I cried as I watched the chalky clumps cling to the top of the water before plummeting to the bottom, unable to withstand their fate. Week 3. You're tucked into a cloth carrier on my chest, listening to my heartbeat, both of us wishing you were back in my womb. You are my secret, my pocket of hope in a pandemic, my magical key to keeping Amma here with me and to keeping my adoptive mother quarantined from me. When I became an adoptive mother myself several years ago, I remember wondering if it would bring me and my adoptive mother closer. Unfortunately, the chasm had already grown too wide. I worry you and I will end up the same way. My adoptive mother, Amma, me, you, we're all dominoes in a matriarchal chain reaction that started well before any of us. Just pieces in a cascading cacophony of consequences tracing back generations. Will I be the domino that remains standing, leaving you and all those after you upright? I don't know. Inertia is a powerful force, and I feel myself tipping. Week 4. I watch you watch your brothers, soaking in their brown skin and their black hair, features that do not belong to Amma or me or you, but to their own birth families in Korea. Before you, a legacy of adoption made our family, built on lost kin and lost countries. And now we have you, our own case study of what happens to a person when they're kept. When I told your brothers I was pregnant with you, they both asked, will she stay with us, or will we give her to another family? She'll stay with us, I managed to say, dumbstruck by their ability to speak aloud the question in my heart. Oh, they said, as silence swallowed the air in the room, and the three of us suffocated in the realization that our fates were not sealed by God or by luck, but by human choice. Thank you very much. And it is my honor to introduce the next reader, Chloe Elena Miller.
Hi. If I can take a picture of all of you, this is amazing. Thank you, everyone, Melissa, everyone involved in this. I'm going to read some sections from an essay titled New York City, and it's in parts. I'll read some parts, and I do mention 9/11. 1. I look up, follow the lines of the geometric sky rigged between the skyscrapers. The best way to get mugged, the guidebooks would admonish me, is to look up. Be distracted by height, the bird reflected in the window. I'm not mugged today. The poet teacher warned, don't study poetry in New York City and write about the subway and how no one makes eye contact. Write about something else. I walk New York City. A biker leans on one foot to stop, yells at the car driver in his bike lane. I take the subway. No one speaks or makes eye contact. I buy a shirt with the F word. I'm amused by New York City, how it lives up to all my expectations. George O'Keeffe painted the city night between the blocks of buildings. Because of perspective, I know what's beyond the frame. My heart calms her edges. 21 years after 9/11, I circled the ceremony. I have no family to claim. I'm not invited beyond the barricades. I know what's beyond from earlier visits, annual televised memorials. The bells toll, New Yorkers and tourists face the new tower, silent. Then reporters return to speaking into cameras. A man in white kneels in a circle and another shouts, count tower, and you get 9/11 every time. Later, a man asks the crowd, What about the third tower? You might not believe it, but you don't believe in justice? This cloudy day's light absorbs possible shadows, spotlights. Except for the reporter's reflector, no one is in the spotlight. Maybe this is exactly right, I think. We are all here together. Today is not Caravaggio's light directing the traffic. Look here. I don't trust directions. His canvas, large, the dark, velvet. David emerges with Goliath, and the cloth embodies the unseen. I look to the edges. I wish I could unglue the canvas to see what he folded beneath the wooden frame. This anniversary, I watch a child chase a pigeon. My frame widens, the light flattens. I look up. I can imagine what is out of view, but I still want to see it. 2. In Rome, archaeologists disrupt new train lines, buildings to excavate the history. In New York City, planners aim up. The High Line routes nature between elevated train tracks. Some buildings' steel edges almost curve around this organized nature. The little island grows its garden high above the river on human constructions. These plantings bring bees to its flowers, humans to its paths. The layers build on each other. Before the new World Trade Center building, gravestones at St. Paul's Chapel from the 1700s, then a road, then a beer garden, and a mural, and then one of the tallest buildings in the world. Surprise beauty, constructed at times with dirt and other times metal, delight. We can imagine almost any answer. There's always another way, Mommy, my child encourages when we're stuck, but sometimes we refuse to imagine. 5. I thought of Donatello's David, S-curve and all, the day you were old enough to get out of the tub on your own. You weren't bronze or wearing a hat, but you stood triumphant, leaning on the sink instead of a sword. When you stood next to the sculpture in that once prison of the Bargello, I saw how little you looked like the crafted metal, how my memory of both art and life were wrong. Thank you. And next up, Chris O'Shea.
Oh, God. It's just too many people here. I'm just so pleased to be reading. You know, my late husband, Alan Chuse, read here so many times and introduced so many wonderful writers. And I'm a little embarrassed that the piece I'm going to read about is my first online date that I had last year. So, Alan, I hope you don't get mad at me, but you know what? He would have done the same thing. So, this was a very harrowing experience. And I met this guy at Starbucks, and I was dumb enough to invite him over to my house for dinner, but it was COVID, and it was too cold to eat in an indoor restaurant, so, okay. On Monday, Ronald called. His tone was rather tentative. I thought he might cancel, but he only wanted to ask me what we were having for dinner. Odd, I thought. I hadn't yet decided on what to make, and I'd already eaten the halibut I'd planned on having for Sunday. Quickly, I blurted out, I thought I'd make salmon. I love salmon, he said. Are you making it with dill sauce? Dill sauce? I've never made dill sauce. Or maybe I had 30 years ago, before my husband had gone off dairy. You don't make dill sauce? Well, how do you cook the salmon? Oh, you know, just with olive oil and lemon, maybe a few capers. Olive oil? You don't like olive oil? Well, why don't you let me make the dill sauce? Oh, you don't have to do that. I can figure out how to make dill sauce, Ronald. I can bring the dill. That's okay. I can get dill. I'll get all the ingredients. Sour cream? No. Cream. No, sour cream. That's fine. It'll be tangier. I'll make it at your house. Okay. Fine, Ronald. You can make the dill sauce. I didn't know what to think when I got off the phone. Ronald's behavior seemed a little off, maybe even bordering on rude. Then I remembered what he'd said at Starbucks when I told him how much I liked Indian food and Thai food and Chinese. He said you couldn't really have a good bottle of wine with any of those foods. Perhaps he was afraid he might be subjected to a plate of hot curry. My God, dating Ronald, if that happened, would it mean giving up half the world's cuisine? The next night, Ronald called again. This time I was prepared for anything. I wanted to apologize, he said, sounding genuinely remorseful. It's not very good manners when a nice lady asks you over for dinner and you tell her what to make. I'm a foodie, you know. What is it with this nice lady talk? Yes, I guessed that about you when we met. Well, I'm kind of a snob. I mean, I am a food snob. That's okay. I've known plenty of food snobs. I'll bring wine, white, since we're having fish. Right, wine with fish. Okay, see you tomorrow. I guess I thought dating would be easy, that even at my age I would not have lost my touch, that my flirt button, embedded in me at an early age by my mother, the queen of flirt, had a lifetime guarantee. After all, I had been flirting since first grade. I can still remember the huge crush I had on Marty Lichterman, how he gave me a friendship ring when I was 6, and Edward Whitman a year later, kissing him in the bushes behind our house. And all through junior high and high school, one boy after another liked me or I liked him. That was back in the days when liked meant more than a click on a phone. But those early crushes had heart, fickle as they were. They were live interactions with real people, not machines, but with actual boys I met in the neighborhood or at school, boys with whom I rode bicycles and played Red Rover and went to movies and parties, the fun we all had hanging out at the local drive-in restaurant, sitting on the hoods of each other's car, passing the beer, no phones to distract us, only the wild chemistry surging through our bodies, and college boys and husbands, the easy assumption that yes, of course you'll meet someone, like it had been for all the years of our species, in case no one remembers. Meet someone on the beach, at a party, in the classroom, at the dog park, which, by the way, happened quite recently. I was having a conversation with a very nice man till one of my dogs attacked his dogs, and that was the end of that. You can tell I'm very inexperienced at this. So next is Bethany Patrick.
Oh my goodness! I have to take a first. It is Beth Ann, but I answer to anything, and I have to take a little note from Chloe and take a picture of everyone. This is just so fabulous, and my family is not going to believe it. They never believe anything I say. She's a writer, they say. Her stories are a little bit exaggerated. So I do want to stick to my time limit, but I also want to say thank you so much to Politics and Prose for hosting this kind of collaborative event. I want to say thank you to Melissa Scholes Young for shepherding Grace in Love onto the page. And I also want to say a huge heartfelt thank you to Richard Peabody for recognizing that not only is DC a great place for writers, it's a great place for women writers. Thank you. And to all you literary editing and publishing students, I'm coming for you in the fall. I'll be teaching that class, and watch out. So this essay I'm going to read to you from is called The Barbie Car. Never thought I'd be writing about Barbie, but here we go. And this was originally part of a memoir I have coming out in 2 weeks called Life B, Overcoming Double Depression. And I'll be launching that here 2 weeks from tomorrow, so y'all come back. And so this is an essay about the younger of our 2 daughters. I've been married for a long time, and my husband, as you'll see in the essay, was active duty in the military. He's retired now. And Our daughter Eleanor is just a wonderful young woman, but she had quite a few brushes with trouble, well, you'll see when you read it, but the last brush she has is in here, and I'm not going to be as funny as Chris, but I promise it ends on a happier note. So this starts, we're living in Texas, and we have a house with a pool in the backyard, which was a great luxury. Our two little girls, who looked forward to our Friday night family pool nights with all childish enthusiasm, had gotten the wind of the pizza to come and decided that they also wanted to have candy for dessert. And so we were all outside, but our daughter Claire convinced her father that along with the pizza, she should be able to choose the candy for the evening. She dragged him inside to show him which kind she wanted, and I, laughing, looked their way. John says he will never forget catching my eye through the window and seeing Eleanor slip from her floating ring into the water. He was back beside the pool holding her in the air, the two of them looking just like they always did. And you didn't notice a thing, he said. And I'm glad you didn't, because I would never want you to believe that you were responsible for that. But I was. You can abuse someone you love, in our case, subject them to abuse. You can neglect someone you love. You can slip up for a moment, and in that moment, lose your beloved child. Does it matter that you loved that child if they are abused, neglected, or lost? We are supposed to keep our children safe. We humans have long gestations, long maturations, time to do the right thing, and we so often don't. When a mother is depressed as often as I was, she can't even do the right thing for herself most of the time, let alone for her children. In her friends' backyards, Eleanor saw the latest power toy. Battery-operated child-sized cars that came in various themes, a Jeep just like Daddy's, a mini sports coupe, and, most tempting of all to Eleanor, the Barbie car, an all-white with pink detailing, perfect beach buggy. One morning after I dropped Eleanor off at her daycare, I drove back into our town and on a street I'd never been to before. Houses with chain link fences instead of the high wooden ones that surrounded our large backyard. Two women were standing by one of those fences behind a table covered with toys and wrinkled paperbacks. They were holding a yard sale, and I glanced out my car window at the array. At the table's far end, next to one woman's leg, a battered, dirty, sun-bleached Barbie car. I pulled over. "How much for the Barbie car?" I asked as casually as I could. $40, said the woman at the other end of the table, but the battery don't work. I wasn't going to try and get the price down because the batteries didn't work. Those things didn't matter. I knew I could complete the negotiations, and I allowed myself a little tiny fist pump in exhilaration. It took a few days, for us to get the little plastic monstrosity up and running and clean enough to present to our daughter. But when we did, her joy was palpable. "My Barbie car, my Barbie car." She danced around it, surveying every inch, just like a guy kicking the tires at a dealership. But when she sat down on the pink plastic seat, molded to look like it was cushioned, she stopped smiling and laughing. With a determined look on her face, she stepped on her new car's little pedal and drove off into the backyard as if she'd taken the on-ramp to the Pacific Coast Highway. Strands of her blonde bob blew up when she took a turn towards the far end. I watched her, my 3-year-old daughter, as calm as if she were 30 and leaving for a new job. At that moment, I felt Stress and guilt leave me. She'd been through abuse and neglect, and she'd survived. I could help her get through everything that was to come. She would get through everything that was to come. The road ahead could be navigated together. Thank you. And our next reader will be Danielle Hirschhorn.
It didn't occur to me to write some kind of introduction to my story, and I don't know why I wrote it, so I'm just going to read it, and I don't teach anything. I don't know most of you. Just here. All right, this is called Some Bunny. Tom found a gray stuffed bunny with one ear near the corner of Garfield and Main on his way home from pretending to work. Tom was no dummy. He was 46, for Christ's sake, and he knew that this disgusting bunny rabbit was a tragedy. There was a child out there experiencing loss for the first time, grief, devastation, coming to understand that one day we all lose the ones we love. It really was disgusting, though, the rabbit. Fresh dirt from the nearby flower bed clung to it in patches. Dogs love to shit in those flower beds, and Tom did not want to bet against there being all kinds of unknown microbes now living in the gray plush. Some bunny's city beautification initiative is another bunny's undoing. The bunny had no eyes, but that appeared to be a condition that predated this Tuesday afternoon. An unidentifiable white substance marked the remaining ear, likely from some kind of food. Old blue marker stains dotted the cotton ball tail, perhaps the scars of a stuffed animal chickenpox epidemic. It had a strong scent under the dirt, a little bit of old soup, a little bit of old candy, a little bit of old bleach. All in all, it was the kind of thing you absolutely did not want to touch. Tom picked it up and put it in his CVS bag. Tom's son had had a stuffed hamster in similar shape to this rabbit a long time ago. Stuffed hamsters weren't as common as teddy bears and bunnies, and when it had finally been lost, there was no replacement. Tom envied the clever parents who bought two of their kids' favorite toy and set one aside. Perhaps this bunny had a twin trapped in a closet who would now be set free. Would the clever parent add the food stains? How does one replicate that distinct old soup scent? He looked at his watch. It was still just a bit too early, so he sat on one of the new smooth black benches to wait. The metal was hot from a day of sun, and Tom could feel it burning through his khakis. A fire engine sped by, sirens going, headed to important work. A mother and son walked out of the shoe shop across the street, and Tom peered at them intently. But this boy was happy, waving his hands, hopping on his toes. He had not lost someone today. He peered into the bag. Love was a dangerous thing. Too much, and it left you washed out and earless, overwrought and gray-faced and buckling under the weight of expectation. This bunny couldn't really fight off monsters in the dark, yet every night it was surely sent to the front lines. The bunny had to be a soldier, a confidant, a playmate, a roommate, a scapegoat, a nursemaid, and never take a day off. When his son Jared was 2, they'd sent him to daycare for the first time. His wife had decided to try a second career in design, and Jared had suddenly been left among a mass of loud and dirty children without so much as a stuffed hamster after a lifetime of quiet, controlled home life. His wife had dropped their son off, but Tom had been the one to pick him up at the end of his first day. Tom had lived through a lot of firsts, but until the end of his life, this would always be the most vivid in his memory. He had opened the door of the classroom, in a hurry, hungry, worried about traffic, annoyed at his boss, tired, and immediately horrified by the sight of another child dripping snot on a toy car. It took a moment for his eyes to fix on Jared, standing on the little green rug, holding an empty plastic cup, frozen, as though it had just occurred to him he might have left the oven on. Tom took a step into the room, and Jared looked up and saw him. The cup dropped to the floor. Jared fixed him with the widest-eyed, brilliant smile, filled with joy, relief, and total, adoring, unequivocal love. He cried, "Daddy!" and rushed over for a tight, clinging hug, as though Tom was a raft in a snotty, alligator-infested river. Tom was a savior. He'd always wondered if this child of his truly loved him, but in this moment, there could be no doubt. For this one moment, Tom felt he was absolutely loved by this person he absolutely loved, and there was nothing better. He'd wanted to be everything to his son, everything there was. Thank you. And our final reader is Anar, Virgie.
Hi, everyone. I'm also going to take a picture. This is great. Yeah, happy May Day. Thanks, everyone, for being here, and to my friends and family. My story is called How We Met. We're in a lovely cocktail bar. The record player behind the bar is unspooling sultry Vietnamese pop, and the glossy emerald green tiled walls give just a hint of reflection of the liquor bottles. It's Saturday night, and we're sitting in a bar in Ho Chi Minh. I've flown halfway around the world to visit Evan, and until this moment, I've mostly spent long mornings lying on his couch, reading while he's at work, before I go out to lunch and read, and then look for a place to have pastry and coffee and read. It's my laziness combined with impulsiveness. 7 months ago, he came to Washington, D.C. for work, and I saw him briefly between his meetings and the interviews I was doing for a story that was due that day. Despite my deadline, I found time for Evan. Over coffee, he asked me to visit. Vietnam was never high on my list of places to visit. It was probably near the bottom, if I'm being honest. But he caught me off guard, and I said yes, and here we are. I lean into expensive promises. Evan leans into me, and his hand brushes my forearm. The couple at the end of the bar. I turn slightly and rest my hand on his shoulder. Yes. How did they meet? Evan and I have a game we play. It's called How Did They Meet? The woman is small, beguiling, and wearing a scarlet silk cocktail dress that shows off her smooth shoulders. Her shiny black hair glistens as she drapes herself on the man next to her. He is balding and rotund, and slightly red and sweaty from the heat. While friendly, he doesn't return her obvious affection. They don't work together, I guess. They do. They work at a bank. He's in finance. She's a teller. This seems plausible, but I like to stretch out the game. She's an architect. He's in construction. They met at an office party. They had shrimp. Evan turns from the couple to me, but who approached who? It's odd. She's so much more affectionate than he is. I take it he is also referring to their looks. She is stunning. He is not. I think, but don't say, that it's possible people play this game with me and Evan. I've always thought of him as more good-looking than I am. He's lanky and sinewy and muscular, has chestnut hair that's graying in a dignified way, and has a forearm tattoo that is large enough for you to notice. That's a beautiful cursive script, but small enough that you'd have to be close to him to read it. I'm short, and what men commonly refer to as curvy. My black hair is graying in thick streaks, in a way that prompts other women to say they wish they were as brave as I am. Evan is what people think of as traditionally handsome. I'm the sort of person whose beauty might grow on you. Our story is fairly straightforward. We are at a welcoming reception for our graduate school program, and having left behind a miserable job in a city I hated, where I had friends I was fairly certain I wouldn't stay in touch with, I was eager to reinvent myself as someone popular, to try something different. Evan had the easy air of popularity around him, a sly shimmer to his laugh that I noticed when I walked in the room. I spent the entire evening trying to talk to him and getting interrupted every time I tried to approach him. Thanks.
Thank you all for coming. As you can see, you're going to need to buy the book now to get the rest of those stories and so many more. Right. Take a minute to stack your chairs against something, Patricia? Sturdy, okay. Books are for sale back there. And also take a minute. Maven's work is up here. Thank you for gathering. The sculpture right here is also for sale. I haven't bought it yet. You mean other? No, they're for